Hello. Um, we are Anissa and Thomas. I'm 18. I'm from Spain. I've been on the European Film Club for 4 years, and I'm just really happy to be here. I'm glad we got to do the interview.
I'm Anissa. I'm from the UK. I'm 16 and I started working with the European Film Club about 4 years ago as well. And it's co created by young people for young people. So you guys should definitely check it out.
Hello, I'm Noah. I'm not that young anymore, unfortunately, but I'm from Austria with Chilean heritage. That's why we couldn't speak Spanish, Thomas. And living in Munich right now at the time because I work here at the theater, or I was working at the theater. I just quit because of doing film again.
We're doing this interview because of your movie, Everything Will Change,
Yes.
which we broadcasted on the European Film Weekend.
Mhm.
And we got to have an interview with the director in Brussels with all the European Film Club members that were in Brussels. They got to interview him, and we all watched it online. So a bit of a icebreaker question, I think. What were you doing when you found out you had gotten the part?
You know that this part actually was one that was supposed to be casted with a fluent English speaker,
Hmm.
which I am not, as you see. But I wanted to have that part so much that I insisted I had Martin's number and I wrote him messages after messages. I wrote him all the news that I got and I wrote him everything that I absorbed from the world that changed and like all the things that slowly, like shifting baselines, changed in my lifetime. And to show him that I'm interested. I work in a world that's built on fantasy from somebody else and mine together. And we build these, I don't know, air castles made of nothing. And it sometimes comes across that, well, while telling a story, you could also change the world. And with this film, at least in a little part, from my perspective as an actor, I felt that this is very important to be done. And I want to be able to tell a story that may, in some alternate reality or in ours, is capable of changing. So that's why. And when I got the part, and I knew that I will get the part. I don't know why, but I knew I had to. So when I got the part, I was very happy. I jumped around and I celebrated, but I also knew that now it only starts and now the important and nearly impossible part starts.
What I was really interested in was whether acting as someone from the future has changed your perspective on your life today.
To be completely honest,
Hmm.
for a certain time, very much, and sadly, I don't know, it changed back to normal soon afterwards. And I remind myself from time to time that I had this experience and that I know stuff because of, I don't know, surrounding myself with these topics for quite some time, that I should act different. The film predicts something like in the future, but from the further future, so it tells a story about the past. You know, the year 120, about the
Yeah.
year 2050, and like to shape it positively, so you're not scared of the future. Predict like, oh, everything goes to shits and we will all die and wah. But we will have in the further future circum this problem with, I don't know, hope and whatever. I don't know, it does something to you. Or to me, it did. It leaves hope in states of, I don't know, environmental chaos as we are in now. I would say the movie in general, or the topic in general, made me question living in cities or how living in cities will progress. If it's good that we all move into cities, or if it's bad, like how wildlife will prosper if we would only live in cities or not, or what will happen if we just don't live anymore. What if humankind or mankind is just like, if there is none, the planet will survive. All the changes we need to do, or we need to have, societal changes, the climate, to change the climate back, or to not make it change too much so we can survive, it's just because of our survival, right? We just need to make sure that we kind of have a life here, because life will take back the earth in some form.
I think so too. I think if like if we're not going to make it right, there's no point in actually just being here and damaging nature.
Yeah, and I think so too. That for us, and I think we are kind of hopefully we'll have a long and, I don't know, more or less beautiful life. We live in Europe. It's quite centered, so we don't have all the problems that the outer parts of the world have. Before this film already tried to consume in a way that is not, that my carbon footprint is not too big. But also I feel like all the big multi-million-dollar corporates need to change something, and they're not held accountable.
Yeah.
So how do we get them to be held accountable?
Yeah, thank you. That's really interesting. I guess especially because you were saying about how, well, I guess we're going to be the ones who pay for it the most as humans, because I guess nature is going to outlive us. Nature can evolve and the world will still be here, but we won't. I guess that's the problem. Like, we're just hurting ourselves as well as the animals and plants, that the planet can go on without us.
Because it was a character from the future, it was different. How did you prepare yourself for it? Did you use any kind of methods that are known by some actors using them? How did you do it?
Yeah, he is from the future, but I tried to pin it down to humane points in characters, and I don't know if I have a method. I wouldn't call it a method. I've been to university, to acting university, and I have never, I don't really remember. Maybe I wasn't paying attention, but I don't really remember if we learned any method, or I don't want to call it any method, but I tried to read the script over and over and over and search for something humane, something that I understand. And with this role, I understood that he kind of felt off in his life. He works at a secondhand shop, which is in a world where new is always better and everything's like shiny and digital. The old, secondhand vintage stuff is not interesting, just for people who may not feel as if they belong to the time that they live in. And as he does not know anything from the past, he's kind of in a nimbus of nothingness. So he hangs around and he's like borderline depressive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That is what I kind of found out, and I found actable. And I understood the friendship that he had to the people he had it with. And I understood, of course, the kind of that he abandons everything else, that he abandons taking part in normal society. So he's a slacker. He's hanging around, and at some point he gets a call. He gets a call from the plot, but he gets a call to do something different, to find out the truth about things, about himself, about his race, about the human race, about the world in general, and about the changes that we done to this world. And this I could understand. And this is, I think, it doesn't need time, or it doesn't need a certain like specific future, past, present time.
Do you think people today will be willing to do what your character did and be open to finding out these things about us and ourselves, or do you think people will continue to just block that side of everything out?
Greta didn't she? When she
She
found
did.
out, I don't know, how many years ago? 6 years ago, or 10 years
Yeah,
ago.
I think it was like 6 years ago,
So
around
yeah,
that time. Yeah.
when she found out, she couldn't resist stopping everything, and it got into a movement. The unfortunate thing, I think, is that the world is still ruled by boomers and people who are not living any longer than 20 years, maybe 30. And in these 20 and 30 years, we will still maybe manage to have like 1.5, 2 degrees. Da, da, da. But what afterwards? What, like, I live another 50, 60 years, you live maybe 70, 80. They do politics for very short term. And I'm concerned that young people are not allowed to decide for their own future. It's like old people who decide for young people's future, and old people only make politics for very short amount of time. Everybody just thinks about 4 years of legislative period. How do you say this? Of a period that a politician is in power. Greta also told a story in a way. I would say I don't know her, but I would say in a way to uh, inspire people with stories is a very powerful tool if it works out. It just needs hope to believe in that and still tell stories until one works out.
Thank you so much for the response. And because you were saying all these things about your character that he doesn't feel like he belongs in the years he's living, and all those things about him working on the secondhand shop and everything. Do you found yourself relating to him in any way?
Very much. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. From the beginning on. The script changed a lot because through the years, and I think they searched for. I've been in the casting, and then they went on to cast in England, in America, and they went on for I think 1.5 years. So I knew the script for 1.5 years, and then they told me yes, I would be the protagonist, and then it took another half a year or something, or maybe I think so, until we started shooting. So it changed a lot, but through all of the changes, I felt like there is a core to this character that I completely understand, and this is I like a very very big question mark, but covered with an exclamation mark. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
being this and doing like whatever. I don't care. I don't. Everything just doesn't concern me too much. But actually, it does concern me. It does hurt me, and I don't know how to cope.
Do you think that this kind of movies uh, do part of that work for the future?
Yes, I think so. But the problem with movies is that they need after all, we've gathered some information. On top of that, we made a film, and it changed over time. And then
Mhm.
we shot the film. And when the film was shot, the last white rhinoceros died out. We learned that we actually already have 2 degrees on some points of the world. We already have 2 degrees of change of temperature. And it's like all the facts already changed. Movies are it's a historical product. It's very dated. And with films that try to hold on to a certain how do you say status quo,
Yeah.
it changes so fast. So I think it can change the view on storytelling, can change the view on things. But storytelling or theater in general is constantly developing. Movies like this one, if you watch it now, it's old news. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like the form that Martin chose. It's a very playful, like to tell a story about the further future about the future.
Yeah.
It's an intelligent form. I liked it very much. That scientists liked it as well because they're all real scientists, and it's
Yeah.
just like a gameplay.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say. I like that it was mixed with documentaries, because until I finished watching it, I didn't. At the beginning, I was just asking myself, are these real scientists?
Yeah.
Are the actors? And then when in the credits, it was all written that they were actual scientists. I thought it was a really good method to play it out, to make it more shocking, because all that you've seen was true.
Ali, you were saying that you read up about a lot of different issues with climate change before you got the role. Were you involved in any climate activism before? Was this something that was really close to your heart?
Climate activism is very young. I was involved in activism, but more political, more like leftist, young. There was a thing like a youth group, a socialist youth group in Vienna that I was involved with or in, and we just like marched,
Oh wow!
painted, how do you say that, banners, and like held them up and stood in front of the parliament or walked around. And I don't know. I now sometimes think it was an excuse not to go to school, but the best excuse to not to go to school because, and I think that Fridays for Future, not going to school on Fridays, is the best excuse for not going to school, because what if there won't be any school possible in the future? So, in that form, I would say I understand, or it's very close to me, that form of activism. And now I go to climate demonstrations, but I don't organize them anymore.
On the topic of the film, it
Yeah.
is kind of apocalyptic and post-apocalyptic. It's a bit like that, but there are many different movies that touch that theme, apocalypse. What do you think makes this one worth watching more than some others that there are?
That because of its form of the, I call it regnosis. It doesn't make sense in English. It's no word in English, but I just invent this now. Because of the regnosis, there is a certain hope, and it lacks the, you know what I mean? The finger that tells you don't do this. It actually tells the story from the other way, from the other way around, like from the back. So it lets hope stay alive, which I like very much, and which I think is unique in those kind of films. Post-apocalyptic or apocalyptic worlds are mostly showing, or movies are mostly showing how bad things can get. And I would also argue that the lens, like visually, this movie is very interesting because it's shot with a certain lens where everything that makes what plants do, so that photosynthesis, which is red in this lens, which I think is very interesting to look at.
You were here in Spain to shot one of those places, right? With when you went that scene with the car and all the solar panels. Yeah.
Yeah, and the big thing, I wasn't, unfortunately.
You
The
weren't.
car, no, the car was, I was in theater. I needed to play here. So
Oh.
they just shot the car with the drone, and I was not in the car, unfortunately, because I would have loved to go there. This is so surreal.
Well, it was a shame that you weren't there.
Have you been there ever?
Well, it is actually shot in Seville,
Yeah.
and I live in Seville, so yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean,
Nice.
amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really nice talking with you, Noah. You're really nice.
Thank you. It was very nice talking to you too. I had a lot
Yeah,
of
thank
fun.
you so much. It's very things you were saying. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your great questions. Anissa and Thomas, it was an honor to meet you.
You too. Thank you.